Hello and welcome to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I'm your host, Clay, and with me today we have a special guest that, of course, is our uh, other GUA host of Marvel Alliance, Chris. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Happy to help out and jump in.
Yeah, it's so funny because you're here now. And through the conversations we've been having at the GUA, Britt really needs an excuse to buy that PS5. So, we've already made the announcement that he will be coming on, or should be coming on, sometime next year for the Jedi Survivor review. And it's we we all had a giant conversation on what we can quote unquote write off and things like that.
I,
Um,
I, I educated you all on a lot of different things. And this is not necessarily pulling the strings. Like it's amazing, what you can claim exactly, and it's say, oh yeah, that totally does. That totally works.
totally works. I like I put in the GUA chat when we actually had it, that conversation. It always reminds me, tax conversations always remind me of Schitt's Creek. It's a write off, you just
Yep.
write it off. Yeah, but
It's
who
not how
pays for
write-offs
it?
work.
I don't know. You just write it off. Um, but
Welcome to tax. What are we? Tax Advice Anonymous or Tax Alliance? Tax Alliance. There we go. Welcome to Tax Alliance.
oh man, very fun conversations over the GUA chat. And of course, you can have some of these conversations if you join the Geekverse Discord, which is usually in the description. If not, you can always message Travis, Taylor, anybody at Geekverse, and they'll send you an invite. But let's go ahead and move on, of course, to the GUA paperwork. One of the biggest announcements, if you guys haven't noticed, it's already close to the holidays, and we haven't had our GUA crossover episode. Schedules did not align very well this month. So we're actually going to pitch it to next month, and we're actually going to have two episodes. Don't know exactly when those are going to be yet, but we do know that we're going to have two of those episodes next month. Really looking forward to discussing a lot of some of the bigger pop culture news. Uh, the biggest news that hit us when we were planning on talking or crossing over was, of course, the Henry Cavill stuff, the Superman stuff. You know, Chris, you and I were just briefly talking about it as far as like DC has their hands full with a lot of conversations that they're going to have at DC Alliance uh, just this entire month, really, with
Yeah.
everything Gunn is responding to.
Just every day you just get a update on the gun watch.
But that is, of course, the GUA crossover. If you would like to be a part of that crossover, you can always join our Patreon. Our $5 tier gives you that access. Now, as far as anything else, uh, nothing too big around the GUA as far as any bigger announcements. I will go ahead and say um, Katie and I have already got access to the Battle of Jeddah audiobook via, of course, uh, 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 oh shoot, I'm Katie is usually here to help me out. The shoot, it's the old Del Rey. Well, it used to be Del Rey,
Paying a
but I
random house.
well, it's Pingham Random House, but they have a new. It's like Random House Worlds. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Ha, Katie, I got it. I got it. Um, Random House Worlds, of course, is giving us the opportunity to review it early. The audio drama comes out on Audible on January 3rd. Katie and I should have it listened to by then. I'm only about halfway through, and it is good. It's juicy. It's fun. A lot of stuff happens, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing it. But other than that, The GUA schedule should be down below in the show notes. So if you would like to listen to any of the other shows, you can go ahead and do that. And then also, of course, remember to rate this podcast as well as our solo feed uh, over at Star Wars Alliance. But Chris, let's go ahead and move on to some of the news bits here. Uh, Before we get on to our holiday special Life Day review, uh, the Lego holiday special. Chris, the big one that I had you talk about or read over comes from the direct. Kathleen Kennedy signs severance deal with Lucasfilm, according to new rumor. Now, we had heard or we had speculated, oh, if she's gonna leave, there's no way she's gonna leave before Indiana Jones. I feel like that's, of course, a huge
Mhm.
movie for her, and she probably wants to see it through. Well, go ahead. You were
No,
gonna
I
say
was
something?
I was thinking because we don't have a date for Mando officially yet, do we?
No. From what I was seeing in the post that I shared with you guys earlier today, was that it was just a 2023, I believe. I can double check on that though.
So my guess was it would be probably the first thing we get from them this year. So my guess is probably January, February. And then that's the biggest thing for Star Wars, and the biggest thing legacy wise she's still tied to is Indiana Jones. So that would be you get your two biggest Lucasfilm properties coming out. That would make the most sense.
So Mandalorian does come out March 1st,
Okay,
2023.
March 1st, so
Yeah.
out of line.
And do we have a date for Indiana Jones?
June 30th? No,
Ju-
no, it's June. You'll probably get it before I can.
uh well, it says here in the article, it says, in light of this, the individual that has kind of started this rumor uh, estimates that Kennedy could leave the company as early as July 2023. So I'm
Yeah,
guessing
June
that's
30.
when uh, Indiana Jones will drop.
Yep, June
Uh,
30th.
so, oh, it does say here Indiana Jones, June 30th. Yes. So, Chris, my question to you is, because we've talked back and forth throughout all of the GUA on our opinions on Kathleen Kennedy, if she is swaying Lucasfilm to the best of their ability and everything else. But I haven't really gotten your like sole, uh reasoning behind this, or even like your opinion on Kathleen Kennedy. So like, what do you think? Do you think that she should stay until there's actually a movie out for Lucasfilm Star Wars, or what? Like, how do you feel about this?
I think right now, in the idea of on the Star Wars front, they after Rise of the Resistance at that point, or excuse me, not Rise of Resistance, but Rise of Skywalker, they kind of got stuck in the sense of, okay, we don't have a plan for the next movie. We have ideas, but we don't have plans. We have more plans set for Disney Plus, and they kind of use Disney Plus as, okay, this will be our biding our time until we kind of sort out our movie franchise. And I think they ended up realizing, saying, "Oh, we've really done well with Disney Plus. We're just going to keep using this because we really don't have a set plan forward for the movie side of it." And I mean, it's worked in the sense of, when you've gotten Mando, 2 seasons of Mando, you've gotten Bad Batch animated, and you got Boba Fett still trying to figure out if he wants to be a leader or not. But I mean, with what's coming up this year, with Ahsoka, Mando season 3, Bad Batch, you got the new series Skeleton Crew, you've got Vision. So, if they don't have right now any kind of a set movie to come out at this point, they're definitely having a very stacked 2023. But I think it's going to come to the point where, when is Star Wars going to come back to the movies? I think if they don't say something this year, it's going to be like, what's going to happen? So, yeah, if Kathleen Kennedy's the one where the buck stops with her at that point, right now I don't see a plan. I see, hey, Taika's doing something. Maybe. Patty Jenkins was doing something. No, she's not. Okay, maybe
Well,
now she is, or maybe now
maybe
she
she
is.
is.
It's just like nobody know. Everyone say, "Oh, Star Wars and Disney Plus." We're confident in that. I think they did a good job of really. When you look at Star Wars, they haven't had an idea of like serializing this kind of universe. And to your point, being huge in the novels at that point, it is ripe for that kind of serialization. I'm on the opposite end, looking at Star Wars in the comics. Yeah, it's been like that for a while. You really have so many different things you could have done, and it works really well for a Disney Plus format. But when it's all said and done, Star Wars began in the movies, and pretty soon it's going to get to the point of, okay, now everyone's like, yeah, give me something Star Wars. There needs to be kind of like a James Gunn kind of moment, like, here's our new person, here's what we have set planned. We need to lay it down and we need to start proving it. Because right now there's nothing that we can point to officially that we have confidence in the movie side.
I know Katie would almost probably hate it. Like me and Katie share a lot of similarities when it comes to what we want to see in the future of Star Wars. But as far as the like construction and how it goes about, I think me and Katie are completely different. Um, just because I love these superhero franchises, and so does Katie. Um, but I see what Feige has done. I see what Gunn is attempting to do, and if there was somebody who jumped in on Star Wars and decided, "Hey, I'm gonna make a slate of movies, TV in the future of Star Wars where it truly is connective tissue," and Star Wars is usually so. They've done it in, like you said, novels, comics, and TV. They've made it work before. There's not a reason why you can't do it now. But in the more modernized of how, like I said, Feige and now Gunn are doing, I would love it. I would love for somebody to be able to do that. As Snell would say, I think a lot of people are juicing for some new Star Wars movies. It does feel odd that there hasn't been. I mean, we're in December. December is usually like Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars month for movies, or it always had been. Uh, and it just feels off. It feels weird
Yeah,
without it.
it just again we had 9 movies based in the Skywalker saga at that point. I mean, one could relate it in, yeah, no sacrilege, but Star Trek's in the same boat. Star Trek's in
Yeah.
very much the same boat in the sense of it's been so long since the last movie. They're doing great on Paramount Plus. They're knocking it out of the park, and it's almost like, okay, on a Star Wars side, I hate to say it, but the movie is going to have to be, at least one of them, of whatever their next movie is going to be, is going to need to be Jedi focused. I didn't say the first one, but it's going to, one of those initial movies of whatever new films they're going to put out is going to have to be Jedi focused, because to your point, I loved Andor, you loved Andor, Katie loved Andor, but why didn't it gain the traction amongst the GA?
And that has always been the question. Is it because there isn't somebody twirling a lightsaber around? And I think it is.
I mean, hate it or knock it at that point. I mean, that's what Star Wars has been synonymous with. Just like, it's one of those things where you look at Star Trek at that point. You got to have some space battles. You got to have some of those big action pieces at that point that everyone's used for. And so if it doesn't have that, it takes a little bit for the GA saying, oh, wait a minute, it's not going to have that. Wait a minute, it's a spy thing, but where's the pew pew and the vroom vroom vroom?
And the thing is, I know this is more so on the side of Snell, even though I kind of like grind my teeth whenever he says it. But it's true about Rogue One. Rogue One, is not your regular Star Wars. But what
Yep.
happens at the very end? At the very end, Darth Vader comes in with his lightsaber, swinging it around, has that awesome scene,
Yeah.
and then that's the only thing people talk about when they get out of the theater. Like, it is something that is a staple of Star Wars, and I think you're right. I think it does need to be within the first 3 films, if not the first film that comes out for Star Wars. It needs to be very Jedi focused. But as
and
far as what that
and
future
whether it
holds,
well, and whether it be if they're really trying to build off the High Republic stuff at that point, may they've thrown a lot into the side of the High Republic in that side. So it'd be I personally, even though I haven't read it except a little bit in the comic side, I'd be kind of as you and Katie being big into the High Republic at that point, I'd be kind of like, why aren't we seeing that in live action? You know?
and I I have made some claims and assumptions, and I really do hope they do come true. I think next year, one of the series that is coming out next year on Disney Plus is a High Republic show, which is
Okay.
the Young Jedi Adventures. It kind of has, and you being a father of two, very much know the stylistic choices of younger, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I guess, centered shows. It's the very bright, the characters with the bigger heads, with the brighter eyes. Those types of things. Like you have the your Paw Patrols, your PJ Masks, your Spidey and Friends. All those shows. I'm learning these things like monthly. Um, but it's in that same vein, but it is High Republic. It is the first one that is High Republic that is coming to Disney Plus. The second, of course, will be Acolyte, which is kind of the tail end of the High Republic, kind of going into
True.
what we would know as like a couple, I think 50, 100, 50, I think 50 years before Phantom Menace is
Okay.
is the timing on that.
So like you said, it's kind of like the edge end of High Republic. So it's not really a High Republic live action, but it's as close as we're getting right now.
Exactly. And the reason why I say that, there's a lot of speculation on some of the set photos that were leaked last week. One being there was a Wookiee, and he looked like he had some sort of Jedi garb on. And if there is any indication to what that might be, we think it is a beloved character in the High Republic novels right now. Um, so that would be the biggest connection that we have to the High Republic so far. So if that is true, I think we could definitely be dipping our toes in High Republic for sure. And I really hope that it does gain traction to the general audience for Lucasfilm to want to pursue some stories in the High Republic, because what we are seeing in the novels is not necessarily what we have seen in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy, where it's light side versus dark side. It is more of light side versus the first phase of High Republic was like space pirates and things
Okay.
like that. So it there's a lot of just very intense moments, a lot of manipulation, a lot of like left and right turns that you're not expecting in these High Republic stories, and I think they could really benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you're very far away from the Skywalker saga to do something new, which is what
Yeah,
I
that's
definitely want.
That's why, again, I appreciate what they did with the first animated, like, Tales of the Jedi, but like coming from the comic side, like Tales of the Jedi was like my jam next to the Dark Empire. That was my introduction to Star Wars and comics. So it's like Tales of the Jedi, you can go way, way back without any kind of connection to the Skywalkers or anything like that, and just be focused on these literally Tales of the Jedi that people have never seen for, and you still get your lightsabers, you still get your mythos, you get all this kind of stuff. Yes, it's a prequel, so I know, some people are just like, oh, we already know what's going to happen, but not to these characters. And to see at the beginnings of everything what could possibly happen. And then if you want to flash all the way forward, post Skywalkers at that point, what do the Jedi are now?
Yeah, for sure. But speaking of comics, you kind of are pushing us towards our next topic. So before we do that, let's go ahead and take one quick ad break. And we are back. So, earlier today, as we are recording this, Star Wars did release their last episode of the High Republic show, uh, which is on their YouTube channel. So go check it out. Uh, and there was an interview, not really an interview, just some words from two editors from Dark Horse, of course, picking up the Star Wars Adventures comic that IDW was publishing. Now they are publishing the stuff from phase two, but before they move on to phase two, they're actually doing one last adventure in phase one with all of the known characters of the High Republic adventures. And they're kind of just having a really fun like adventure. Not really a lot of details of it, but it's basically a last hurrah to say goodbye to those characters for now, because we all know, followers of the High Republic, is that we will soon get back to those characters in phase three. So that is a big announcement for Dark Horse there. And then, of course, like they said, phase two, they're going to be pushing a lot in 2023. As far as everything else in the High Republic show this week, they talked a lot about some of the books that have already come out. They talked to Cordova, which is the author of Convergence, a book that me and Katie have already uh, did a review on, so go check that out. But they also had Charles Soule on. Charles Soule, of course, started the High Republic with the Light of the Jedi, writing some other stories within the comics, but he is writing a comic that is coming out next year called The Blade. And Chris, I know you are not really big in the High Republic right now. You're kind of dabbling in it with the
Mm-hmm.
comics. I want to recommend The Blade just off of the description of what Charles Soule said it was going to be.
I mean, it's Charles Soule, so he's definitely one of my go-tos in the sense of like writers and in the comic world at that point. So it doesn't take much to sell me on. If Charles Soule's on it, I'll definitely give it a read.
Well, I am pretty sure you have read Charles Soule's Darth Vader run,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, The Blade is going to be set in the High Republic,
Okay.
but something that is in that series was teased in Darth Vader. So look at the years that are separating those two eras, the High Republic, this phase being 150 years before the first phase, which was already 100 years before the prequel era. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, you go even further for Darth Vader. Look at how many years pass, and there's a connection between the High Republic and Darth Vader. I think that's going to be excellent. I'm going to be really excited to read it.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me like Soul's very much in the like of another mutual love that we have for another writer, Kyle Higgins, in the sense of where like Soul's playing like chess, like three or four, five or six different moves on the board because he's been now in Star Wars for as long as he's been, whether it be the novels or the comics. He knows how to think ahead and what he would like to do. And there may not be a guarantee, but he's setting himself up for things that he can pull from at that point. I mean, you look at his whole trilogy that started with War of the Bounty Hunters, what he's been trying to set up with that starting there. So,
Yeah. And I am very much looking forward to it. He has just been an excellent get for Star Wars when it comes
mhm.
to building this High Republic and everything else for it. So really looking forward to that. And the last thing from the High Republic show that I want to share is I want to actually share my screen here because again, Chris, I know you're not heavy into it, but I think this is something that everybody needs to get if they're going to be interested in the High Republic. Marvel or DK Publishing is actually coming out with a Star Wars The High Republic character encyclopedia. And
Mhm.
I believe the video also states that it has 250 characters in this encyclopedia. So
I
absolutely
would
amazing.
one. It's DK, and DK. Even when I was a kid, that was like the book for any kind of like you said character breakdowns, like breakdowns of like cards, like things like that. So I mean, one, it's an outstanding publisher to begin with that they're linked to again. But like you said, even at the beginnings of something like the High Republic, 250 characters in just what is it? How long has this been for High Republic right now? How many years since it started?
It started in 2020. So
Yeah,
it's
so I
only
mean,
it's 2 years.
2 years, 250 characters. I mean, it's Star Wars at that point. But again, to your point, someone like me, there's always Wikipedia, to always go to at this point. But if they're not going to go to the extent that Wikipedia goes, but gives, people like, oh, I'm reading this or seeing those minor characters and where they're connected to. No, I think this is a great idea, and I'm glad they're jumping on it right now. So this is something that they could definitely update with new additions, or like you said, divide it amongst the phases.
Oh, I would love that. I personally have I actually I think I'm blocking it right now. But My Hero Academia collection, they came out with something like this, an encyclopedia. And for me, whenever it comes to a run that is longer than like 50 issues, there are plenty of characters that you're gonna probably forget the name of, forget what their abilities are, and things like that. Just some of the small details stuff. And having this, I am somebody who consumes content daily. You know, me and you, Chris, are doing our comics reading challenge. I know that I read 1,000 books. If you were to ask me, hey, can you tell me the plot summary of book 15 that I read? I could
No.
not tell you anything. You know, so I think having this encyclopedia, especially in the time of, if we ever do a retro of these books or anything here on Star Wars Alliance, I could use that as a frame of reference. I could look back at some of these characters and things like that. I think that would be excellent. I love your idea about dividing them up via the phases of the High Republic too. I think that would be excellent. Um, and just the cover itself looked absolutely gorgeous for this book.
Yeah, highly. Again, the, DK does a great job with it, and especially they've had the agreement with Lucasfilm for many, 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 many years. So this is just a continuing of a great relationship they have.
For sure. Now, that is basically it for the news and everything else this week. Very, very small week, but we got a good amount of time to have a conversation. Now, Chris, I recommended this holiday special because I had never watched it, and you thought that you had never watched it, but you
I
just told me. So tell me this story
Yeah.
again. What?
Well, so when I queued it up at that point, um, I'd seen, apparently I got halfway through with it, and I said I don't think it was bad in the sense that I stopped it. I think I either had other things or forgot to do it or whatever happened. So I said, okay, well I've at least seen half of this, but I'm gonna restart it because I think when I did watch it, it was probably right when it came out. So yeah, so I mean, I stand corrected. I had only seen half of it.
Now, I absolutely enjoyed this holiday special. I've said it before. We just, I would say recently, but it was this summer when we reviewed the summer vacation episode for Lego. I have got a brand new look on some of these child friendly type stories,
Hmm.
especially with Lego stuff. I was never a fan of Lego as far as the shows and the movies and things like that. And I just have a new appreciation for them. They are so clever. Some of the jokes are absolutely hilarious.
Hmm.
Um, and I really enjoyed this. But I think one of the biggest plots to this story is actually something that I have been crying out for in Star Wars storytelling for years now. Of course, if you have watched Rebels, you know this is not a new concept to Star Wars whatsoever. But before we go into that concept, let me go ahead and read the synopsis for this holiday special. It says, as her friends prep for a Life Day holiday celebration, Rey journeys with BB-8 on a quest to gain deeper knowledge of the Force at a mysterious Jedi temple. There, she embarks on a cross-timeline adventure through beloved moments in Star Wars history, coming into contact with iconic heroes and villains from all eras of the saga. But will she make it back in time for the Life Day feast? So it says right there, time travel, basically.
Yep.
I have said that Star Wars needs time travel because it's the most sci-fi thing ever. But the problem is, and it's the problem that we have definitely seen now that the whole Mark Hamill debacle, the AI, the CGI, all of this stuff that we've seen within the last 2 years, you know, do you recast for these characters? Do you not recast? That whole conversation again. But what do you think? Is time travel something that you can only do in something like this?
Again, for this, it was more on the nose as I'm watching it and getting to those moments and saying, all right, I didn't have it then when it came out, but now I said, okay, now we've had our No Way Home moment, we've had our Multiverse of Madness moment in Star Wars. I have those frame of reference now, but I don't know. The only reason I'll say I'll disagree with you just because I haven't, like, in what reading I've done, either seeing the movies, shows, or in the comics that was Star Wars, I haven't found the need, like, this needs time travel, or like there's a story that needs time travel. I'm not saying like I don't want it. I just haven't, like you obviously have seen a need for it, in the sense of like I would like to see a story for it, but I haven't seen that necessarily. It just, right now, outside of like meditation and having those moments of connecting people with the past, like we've seen with the Jedi do at that point,
Yeah.
it just necessarily right now, I can't see it. But maybe you can sell me on it. I don't know.
Well, and mine was more of like a gimmick to like how to make things a little bit more fresher, out of the box type of thinking. I was like, oh, time travel. But of course, the frame of reference that I'm using as far as Rebels is the world between worlds.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
And when Ray was using this key, they didn't even name it. It honestly, when I first saw it, I thought she was pulling out of the wall a kyber crystal, because that's literally
True.
what
Yeah.
it
I thought the
looked
same
like.
thing.
But she started to literally use her hand like the sorcerers in the MCU, and creating this portal. But just like in Rebels, A World Between Worlds, it's very like space, stars, and everything else, and that's what you see when the portal opens. So I assume, oh, maybe this is just a portable world between worlds. Um, and so she does jump between different eras, and like you said, there's your No Way Home moment with the three Obi-Wan Kenobis, the hello there, hello there, hello there.
That that
Um,
that's where it hits. That's probably the best stuff when everyone's meeting each other. And I'll tell you what, some of the voice actors they got for this are pretty spot on to the real ones. Like in some of those moments, like with Han Solo, the voice actor that's trying to pull it off in both older and younger
and
one. And I said,
younger.
hey, yeah, they did a pretty good job.
Oh, I definitely love the voice acting in this. Um, I think that the Kylo Ren voice, not the of course in the mask, not when he's out of
Yep.
the mask, but in the voice sounds great. Um, I didn't know this, but the voice actor for Clone Wars Anakin did the voice for Darth Vader,
Oh,
or,
okay.
or does the voice for Darth Vader in these Lego movies, which would totally make sense because he is Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, and to your point, like they're very much on the nose. Like I've was a fan of the Lego games for a long time. At that point, I was big in Legos as a kid. And my son's really getting to Legos right now, so that's kind of like his kind of thing. He's very, I could tell I've got my little engineer already, because he could just sit there very meticulous about how he does things. And but I still haven't beaten the Skywalker saga on
Hmm.
it. I'm on and I'm a slow burn with that game. Like I'll play really hardcore and then put it down for a little bit. Like I think right now I'm going in chronological order, so I'm in Empire Strikes Back right now.
See, for me, I don't think I have finished because when we reviewed the game, me and Katie were both very close from beating it. And I've gone back and forth on playing it, just like you said, go really hard on it, trying to do something specific and then put it down for a while and then play casually. I know for me, I was really trying to my hardest to get the little battery packs so that way I can get the multiplier for the
Oh yeah,
credits.
that was my thing. I that's the only time I went out of order. I went to Force Awakens to get Ray so I could finally get the scavenger stuff. So I said, "All right, I'm not playing this game. I'm jumping right back." So yeah, no, I've got the highest multiplier, so I'm rocking it with studs.
Yeah, so I was doing my darndest to get as many studs as possible, looking up YouTube videos on like what's the fastest way to get like 5 million studs or whatever. Uh, but the game is fun. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it, and I think even that gave me a new appreciation, like I said, to how to really look at these types of this kind of content, really.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's so funny. The relationship or the way they portray Palpatine, Sidious in these Lego movies is absolutely hilarious because he is like a man child.
Yes.
He throws tantrums and everything else. I absolutely love the Grinch-esque moment he has at the end of this where
I'm
it's
gonna
like
change.
like right before he blows up, he's like, I've had a revelation or whatever. Absolutely hilarious.
But you say like you said, like this is the these Lego shorts, or even this case Lego special. It's for kids. It is for kids on the very basis form. But for us as fans of the movies and the shows and things like that, there are many, many, many Easter eggs, tips of the hat.
Hmm.
Lots of Leo pointing at the screen. I recognize that. I get that. I like the tip of the hat. Or some of even our own like fan commentaries, or like why do they do this or things like that, that they tip of the hat to us. And I think that's what I watch. I enjoy watching these because I'll get it. Obviously my children won't get it until for many many years now. Like Scott from Squadcast, I was going back and forth with him a month or so ago, talk about Star Wars, and I had remembered that he was talking about like when he's going to introduce Star Wars to his kids, his oldest, and he said, it kind of surprised me because it's just like 9 years old is kind of, and I started thinking about it. So yeah, that's probably when you start doing the movies, that's probably the best thing that they could start kind of understanding a
Hmm.
more, okay, it's sci-fi, but there's a lot of high level concepts and they're not going to get everything, but for them to kind of appreciate it and really get into it. Yeah, he's not too far off with probably 9, 10 years old.
Yeah, I think that this type of content, the Lego stuff, is very much kind of like even for me watching it. I rewatched it right before we started recording. Kind of like a knee slapper for me. There's just so many jokes in here and stuff that you don't need to take seriously. I think there's a moment where, of course, Kylo Ren is shirtless, and it's like
Yeah.
naval. I mean navy. I mean, let me just leave for a second.
Pecs.
It's so dumb, but so funny all at the same time. And I love your frame of reference for like Endgame and Multiverse of Madness and things like that. I didn't really pick up on that until my second rewatch of it. Uh, but the fact that like when you're watching these things, I was sitting with Amberlynn and I'm just like, okay, of course she only sees colors on a screen.
Yes.
Uh and I could easily put this on for when she is a little bit older and she can get a laugh out of it because somebody's doing something silly on the screen. But as far as the age goes, I think that as far and it's really hard for me to decide. I'm still trying to decide. It's going to be years, like y'all said, 9 years until I really need to sit down and be like, okay, I need to make a decision on this. But like, when to even start or where to start in the Star Wars saga, you know?
Like I right now, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm probably gonna do the machete cut.
Oh, really?
That's because I never got a chance to do that. Like I said, I was like 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. Like I never have done a machete cut with it. So I would think that would be the interesting way of 4, 5, then use. We've got the revelation. So we'll go 1, 2, 3 as kind of like the flashback, and then go to the Jedi throughout the thing. I said I think that would be kind of a cool way in the sense of, okay, that's not how I watched it, but this is how you can appreciate the prequels more.
I think so. I like Katie says machete cut all the way. Um, I always heard the machete cut actually cuts two out. So it's actually
Oh
four,
yeah.
5, 1, 3, and then you go 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, okay,
Uh
that's another way. Yeah.
I I don't know, just because my wife has made it very, very like clear to me about how like she wants to like even inform me of more powerful women and things like that. And I think like of course Ray would be the perfect
Yes.
individual in the Star Wars saga and just franchise to show Amber Lynn, but I still think that you can show her characters like Padme, like Leia, you know,
Hmm.
in these
Well,
other ones.
even my favorite of them all, Ahsoka. Like I've been
Yeah,
I'm a Ahsoka fanboy since day one, and it's just continued to prove me right. Of like, this is who I want my daughter, my son to look up to in the Star Wars universe. Ahsoka, like the journey she has gone on, and I'm looking forward to when it comes out in the sequel. Just like to see this
which
is a
I am a
character we have
little
seen so
disappointed,
much.
which I'm a little disappointed at because going back to the holiday special, Ahsoka did not make an appearance here.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that. But because what I gather, again, what they were trying to get at with this, seeing it out only like one time all the way through, that would have seemed thrown in for what they were going for with this, in the sense of outside of Mando. I think Mando they had to throw in just because it was the big thing,
I
but
think so too.
everything else was film related.
That is true. That is true.
So
That just one moment where they're falling out of the sky and they
yeah,
look down, they see Grogu, and they're
they
like,
had to. They
"Oh,
had to
how
put Mando
adorable!"
there.
I it, it was out of place, but I think you're right. It was the biggest thing, just the year prior. So they had must have just thrown the scene in there,
Oh
and we're
yeah.
just like, "Oh, let's just put it into this scene. I think it fits." Uh, but yeah, but I do like the overall story that this was putting out there.
Mhm.
Uh, the oh, Katie is saying my understanding is Ahsoka doesn't happen without Filoni right now.
Fair.
True. Uh, well, I guess did he? I guess he still had his big pool because at this point he didn't have his new title that he has now at the point of this holiday special.
But still, like I
Uh,
said, outside of Mando, everything else was film related, so they really didn't need to pull
true,
someone like
true, true.
Ahsoka in there.
But you know, other than the in game moments and the no way home moments, uh, Katie says the holiday special is one of her favorites as far as Lego goes, and rightly so. This was actually really really fun. The story of like being patient, uh, with because ultimately what she's trying to do is trying to train Finn in the very beginning on how to become a Jedi, and she's almost trying to force it in the very beginning. She's like,
Yeah.
"What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong?" Uh, and that was the whole point of she's gonna go try and look and watch other masters teaching their apprentices She goes to see Yoda and Luke first. Then she sees Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, which I I didn't really get that one because I feel like episode 1 Ben was or Obi-Wan was not really that enthusiastic of a character, you know?
No, he seemed to be he was more of them like, oh, why are we doing this? Or or mainly also criticizing Qui Gon for his rebellious ways.
Exactly. I did like the moment where she saw Anakin and Obi-Wan during the time of what I would think is Revenge of the Sith episode 3, and she's like, "Oh, they didn't see me." And then they jump up on the elevator. That was great. Loved it.
Hello there.
But then she starts to see like the evildoers, the bad guys, Palpatine and Darth Vader and things like that. We start going into the original trilogy. Really loved this holiday special overall, and I think we're at this point we'll go around in circles about it. But was there anything specific that we haven't touched on that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, the whole Life Day thing, it was just like that. I became less and less interested as the Ray story really kind of just got, jumping the shark at the different moments. And so, uh, which was fine. I was there for it all at that point. But I like it how, it was one of those things like Ray trying to be a teacher when she herself just became, like, quote unquote, a Jedi. It kind of, we haven't seen this in the new Star Wars canon necessarily. Of we've seen it in the legend side of Luke becoming a teacher. We haven't seen that kind of side in the canon. So it's kind of like, well, this is probably what Luke would struggle with. As
Mhm.
quickly as he had to start rebuilding the Order, he had just become a Jedi. These are the same struggles. We don't see that necessarily in this, but that's what I kind of appreciated with Yoda saying, look at what they all had in common. They were friends and stuff like that. Saying, oh my gosh, I was forcing it on him. I wasn't a good friend. I wasn't, that. And that's the kind of thing, like, she has this burden on top of her to feel like she has to do something, and she sees something in Finn that's saying, oh, I've got to get it out of him in order to be this another new Jedi. I guarantee it's the same thing that Luke felt.
Oh, 100%. I really do enjoy that as well. Um, I really want to see Finn as a Jedi though. So we need to
Yes.
progress past this moment because even in the summer vacation one, he is still contemplating on not contemplating, but he is still preparing, to become a Jedi and he hasn't necessarily become it yet. So like I really need for Star Wars to get to that point. But I think one of the small nods that this holiday special had that I really enjoyed uh, is more so for the adults, of course, because I don't think any child in this era would understand the frame of reference. But Yoda at the very end, what that was supposed to be, right? The tip of the hat for I believe his name is Sam the Snowman in
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
claymation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
about to say Sam the Snowman. I said I didn't know this. I know. I was like, please tell me it was the claymation stuff, because that's exactly what I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't like at first I was like, why is he dressed like that? And then I was like, oh wait, it's supposed to be from like the old school like holiday stuff.
Yep.
So I thought that was really, really clever, really fun. Uh I think one of the again, it's those small nods that it's kind of dumb to begin with, but it's just something in Star Wars canon that they will never be able to get rid of. Uh, Luke drinking the blue milk whenever he had the chance to. Uh, very very odd choice, but it is what it is. It's just like one of those little, even if it's like a small thorn in your side, it's just like again some of the memes that we as fans come up with. I think Lucasfilm is very much aware of those things, and so they're like, oh, we're just going to throw it in here.
Yeah, and it shows like, hey, we get it. We make fun of ourselves too at that point. Again, you appreciate this holiday special more with you knowing what you're making fun of is the original holiday special. So if you've even watched that, you catch like all these little things that they're like, oh, they keep on talking about the food at that point. Well, yeah, because that was a big thing in the holiday special kept on talking about.
See, now Katie's original plan for the end of this year was to watch that special.
Oh,
I
you still
have
got one more week.
I have not seen it yet. So if we have the chance to, and you're right, we do still have the end of the year to possibly watch that. So Katie might make me do it.
Do a live commentary about it. It'll be worth it. Just for the first time reactions out of both of you, it'd be so worth it.
Oh, I would. You know what? If I can, if I can get the time, because I also need to look at my schedule to see if we can find time to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I would not mind doing a live commentary for the Patreon and then doing the review on the show. I would be totally down for that.
Well,
But
if and when you ever do it at that point, I will plug a great podcast called Stuff You Should Know. They have an episode. It's years ago, but it was probably one of my favorite episodes they do on the holiday special. It is just brilliant of all the behind the scenes stuff about that whole special. So again, Stuff You Should Know, and they have an episode about the Star Wars holiday special.
all right, I wrote it down. I will
Yep.
listen to it this week. But that is it for the show. Excuse me. Very small episode today, this week. But Chris, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. Where can the lovely listeners find you?
Yes, you can. Thanks for having me on. Happy to jump on, and yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga, and my two shows on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network is World's Finest True Believers, and you can follow that at Finest Believers. New episode is dropping Christmas Day. New episode, new guest, so check that out. I'll be dropping in your feeds, and then Marvel Alliance at Marvel A Podcast. A little plug: we're recording. Well, you listen to this. If you're listening to this tomorrow, at that point Thursday, our live episode will be joined by a guest. Brent and I and our guest will be breaking down our full rankings of where we place all the Phase 4 projects in our illustrious rankings. And answering, if you've been paying attention, all in the game, our frequent contributor in the live chat had asked, put a very good question to us, as saying, what 6 projects would we eliminate with not having any prior knowledge of just the ideas of the titles and the ideas that we knew before even going into it. So I've got my 6. Brent's got his 6. Our guest is still working on their 6 at that point. So it's going to be a very interesting episode.
I am looking forward to it because when I saw that question pop up, I was like, oof, that's going to be a hard one to answer. But of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter, on Mastodon, on Hive. Of course, I have all the same tags on all of those social media. You can find Star Wars Alliance, of course. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot the tag. It is, of course, Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. I got you, Katie. So Katie also commented, I just saw this. I don't know if we'll get into the commentary and review, but that sounds fun for the future. So there you go. We will possibly see what that holds. Of course, you can always follow Katie at Slice of Katie, and of course, Slice of Film. She actually has a review coming this next week, of course, being Glass Onion, that is dropping this week. I
Can't
believe
wait.
it's
Finally get to see it.
now. Remind me, is it Christmas Day or is it?
No, it's Friday.
It's Friday, the
Yep.
the 24th.
23rd.
Oh, 23rd. Yeah, 23rd. So, guys, make sure to watch Glass Onion and then go listen to the review. For all of those who have seen Glass Onion when it was in theaters, if you join our Patreon for $5, you can already listen to that spoiler review of Glass Onion. So go check that out. But with that, guys, we want to thank you so much for lasting this long. I'm going to see if I can do the same outro that Katie does all the freaking time. I don't think I'm going to be able to. So, Katie, you can laugh at me all you want. But yes, of course, Katie. But with that, guys, we thank you so much for listening or watching. See, I've already messed it up. I'm not even going to attempt the rest. So,
Happy Life Day.
yes, I was just about to say, may the force be with you all, and happy Life Day.